So New York City, there are two council people in New York City that are proposing some bills. They're calling a Reconciliation Act, or what specifically do they call it? It's a program. It is. It doesn't say here right away, but basically, they're talking about reparations in New York City, about racial injustice and slavery in New York City. Now, there are so many problems wrong with this. First of all, this idea of reparations because of a person's skin color. What that's implying is because you have a certain type of skin color, that you share the same consciousness as someone who has the same skin color. So, it's this Marxist idea of classes, but applied to American politics, we have different groups of people. So we got, white people, Hispanic people, Asian people, black people. You got, the 1%, the 99%, men, women, all this, people who have autism, they're called quote unquote neurodivergent people or whatever. And that's not how it works. Everybody has their own individual experiences. So, my ancestors had nothing to do with slavery, right? At least not that I'm aware of. And I've studied my family history, quite a bit, and I don't see any evidence that they had anything to do with owning slaves, at least not in the last 200 years. In Europe, you never know. There were lords and serfs, and of course, there was slavery then, right? In the medieval period, most white people were slaves in their own countries. Many black people within Africa are slaves. So, and that's to other blacks. So this idea that, because something happened, 100 years ago, that the person's still suffering from that is absurd. There are certain things that, there was, actual racism, from the 60s and prior. And there's some of that today, but it's not holding anybody back. It's not like just because you have a certain skin color, that doesn't force you, unless it's passed by the government. So in the case of like affirmative action, if you're a white guy, it's much harder to get into a university than if you're anybody else, because they let women in, they let all these other groups in. It was affirmative action. So the key here is it being forced? Is the government mandating that you have to do certain things, mandating that you must do something because of your skin color? And as of right now, it's actually against white men more than anything, as of right now. And in principle, it violates the same principle. So it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian, men, women, it doesn't matter. Just because you have a certain skin color or, gender or whatever. Now, there are certain considerations. Let's say if I'm a fire department, I'm going to hire men, right? Because I need people with upper body strength. So, of course, I'm going to discriminate against women. I don't want a woman, trying to, swing an axe, and can't get the job done. I need to get the job done. So now that would make sense, because now we're discriminating based on ability. But this idea that reparations, right, because you happen to have a certain skin color, that's just absolutely absurd. Everybody has a different consciousness. And this is fundamentally the problem with Marxism. Karl Marx says that people with different economic classes share the same consciousness, which is absurd. They don't. Everybody has their own individual problems and things like that. Basically, what this comes down to is you got certain people that find opportunities. These are people that want other people to take care of them because they don't have the confidence to take care of themselves. They don't feel like they're capable of doing that. Therefore, they're demanding somebody else take care of them. Kind of like Karl Marx, if you read the history of him, he felt that he had to be taken care of by other people because he certainly couldn't do it himself. And same thing with all these other people: Lenin, Hitler, Mussolini, the Roosevelts. These are all people that want other people to take care of them. And it's the same thing right here. These politicians have this idea that people who are capable, the independent people who are very productive, ought to take care of them. And again, and I can mention other problems. I mean, you got people who are mixed race. That's a very common thing now in these days. So if somebody's half black and half white, what do? Pay reparations to themselves because part of their ancestry happen to have the same skin color that others that owned slaves, even though in their history they never did. Or you got cases where people descended from slave owners that are black. Their ancestry owned slaves, but they are black. Where they get reparations paid to them. You got people that are, coming from other countries, right? So you got a lot of black people from now coming from Haiti or Haiti, they did have, slavery there, but say in Somalia or from Nigeria, coming straight from Africa, or are we paying reparations to these people? They don't have a history in the United States, not an ancestral history to the United States. So there's so many problems wrong with this, but it's basically what this is it violates people's individual rights to demand that they do something under this epistemological error that groups of people share the same consciousness, which they don't.